It's a DACCCAST. It's a DACCCAST. It's a DACCCAST. DACCCAST. Cause I said it's a DACCCAST. It's a DACCCAST. It's a DACCCAST. 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 DACCCAST.
You're listening to DACCCAST, produced by students of Danville Area Community College. And now your hosts, Kia and Keegan.
Yo, 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 it's Kia and Keegan here from the basement of the clock tower.
Here on DACCCAST, we get to know the familiar faces we see all over campus in hopes that students at DAC and members of the community get to know each other a little better.
With that being said, we're here today with Rickey Williams.
Hi, Rickey.
A member.
Nice to see you guys. Thank you for having me.
He's a member of the faculty here. We're going to get started with a few icebreaker questions just to get the blood flowing a little bit. Name one colleague who is most likely to escape a deserted island alive.
I'd have to say John Wade.
Yeah, I can see it.
I can see that too. Okay. Second one. For the rest of your life, you could choose one team member to work with. Who would it be?
Probably Rich Pate.
Rich Pate? I've heard a lot of good stuff about Mr. Pate.
So does that mean we have to bring him down too?
Probably at some point.
Yeah. Okay, so let's introduce yourself. What's your role here at DAC?
I'm a criminal justice professor here. I think this is my 13th or 14th year. You know, when time starts going and it's good, you don't mark it as much. But I think this will be the start of my 14th year. And I also do some race and ethnic relations, so it's not just all crim. I do some social stuff. So.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so what does a normal day look like for you? What did a normal day before Corona look like for you? Two very different things.
Yeah, because now I think it's eye strain. But besides that, normal day is I always start at about 8 in the morning, actually about a quarter till, look at emails, that kind of thing. And then I go from there, and my first class is at 8:30. And I teach a College of Eds. I teach 2 of those classes, which are really interesting. I like getting students started on a pathway, and hopefully they'll stay with it, or they'll find out that it's not for them and find what they really want to do. So, yeah. And then I go until about 3:30. So I'm here all day normally.
Yeah. Okay, so when we were looking you up, we saw that you taught classes like criminal justice, criminal law, patrol techniques, criminal investigation, hostage negotiation, and a lot of other really interesting things. I have to ask, what's your favorite class to teach?
My favorite class is for verbal defense.
Interesting.
And then my second, and they're kind of equal, and that's race and ethnic relations. Criminal justice, I've been in the field, so I've been in it, so it's kind of old hat.
Yeah.
But now, the other stuff is very interesting because it's interesting for me and my family. So
yeah. So is that something that you kind of, like, through the course of your career, you learned to like more?
No. The verbal defense, I had some classes with verbal judo and other stuff, so that's what spurred that. Okay. I've always believed communication is the main point. So if you don't communicate, it's hard to understand where the other person is coming from. Of course. And since we use mostly nonverbal cues, then we have it becomes a problem, because people are looking at it, and I may emphasize something. Somebody says, "Oh, he's angry." No, just how I emphasize. So so it becomes a way of how to dance with someone, and make it work.
Interesting.
This is out of my curiosity, but what is hostage negotiations? What is that class like?
Yeah, it seems really intimidating.
Now, see, the hostage negotiations, I actually haven't taught a class here on hostage negotiations.
Oh, what?
Okay. I was, for the State of Illinois Department of Corrections, I was the Central Region Hostage coordinator for years. Wow. And so I enjoyed that very much, and it's very fun. What is it? You get to role play, and I love role playing. I probably should have been an actor or something, but I like doing that part of it, and to put people in situations where to see what they're going to do, hit their stressors and highs and lows, and and there's old Stockholm syndrome, see if that kind of plays in somewhere. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
So moving on, we're going to go a little bit into your background. So if you can just take us through where you went to high school, college, what has led you up to this point?
Well, I went to high school at Westville High.
Westville
Yeah,
High School.
always
Go
a tiger.
Tigers.
Always a tiger. Never be anything but. But even though I've been a Viking for years, nothing but a tiger. So I went from there, and then I started school. Actually, was supposed to start at Millikan University, and we had our son. We were pregnant with our son, so I came home and went to work at General Motors. Okay. And so worked there until that was completed. And so at that point, I started school, of course. Then I started taking some classes here at DACC, just part-time basis. And so left from there, and I actually I started working iron. Okay. But before I started working iron, Vivian Schultz, which was the HR person here back then, I came out because I'd been laid off, and we had trying to transition into new place for me to work. We had to make money, and so I came out here and worked as a custodian. Back then they called it a custodian. I think now it's building maintenance. And I worked there, and the only way she would give me the job was if I stayed in school. So I had to stay in school in order to do that. So I worked here, and then I left there, and I started working iron, and still going to school part-time. And on this fateful day, I was, it was one of those days where you want to do something different.
Yeah.
And you feel that in your heart. I hope you guys get to where you want to be quicker than I did, okay? But so there's a place where you know that it's just not for you. You need to do something else. And that day I was feeling that. Well, that day I fell. And so I fell about 30 feet. And didn't get hurt anywhere. My ankle just very sore. On that same day, two of my friends got into an accident on the railroad.
Wow.
Steve Maddox passed away that day, and my other friend, we call him Ollie, Tom Oliphant, was hurt very bad. I was coming home, and Laura was at my parents' home, and we lived down the block from them, and she was like, stop. So I was kind of playing with her, and I kind of swerved at her, and she was really angry. She's like, stop, I said, and then she told me what happened. On that day is when I knew I was going to do something different for a fact.
Yeah.
I just didn't know what.
Gotcha.
Wow.
Gotcha. So we heard that you are a retired prison guard.
I don't like guard. I like officer. But yeah,
officer.
A correctional officer. Yeah. Well, I worked up through the ranks on that. I started out as an officer at Stateville Correctional Center. I got hired through Danville, but I started at Stateville. And after a few months there, we came home and then opened up Danville Correctional Center. And I worked up to rank sergeant, lieutenant, captain, and then assistant warden of operations.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of fall in love or learn how to get involved in criminal justice?
On that fateful fall day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. On that, actually, right before that, a man who became a mentor of mine, he was a warden at Danville Correctional Center, and he came up to me. They were choosing people. I didn't realize that. I was an ex-athlete, those kind of things. Yeah. And they were saying, well, who might be good to work? And some people were giving him my name. And so he walks up to me, and I was on top of the dietary building. They were having us move this retaining wall. And everybody was getting PO'd because, he kept having us move the retaining wall.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, so what do you do here? And it's like, then he comes up and walks up to me, and I'm looking at this guy who's been having us move this stuff, redo it. And I'm just kind of looking at him. He goes, reaches out his hand. He goes, hey, he said, my name is Mike Neal. And I said, well, I'm Rickey Williams. And he's like, well, how you doing? I said, okay. And he's like, I was just talking to some people. He said, how would you like to come and work with me? He didn't say for me. He said with me. And that kind of caught me off guard. And I was like, what do you do? Because I didn't know what he did.
Yeah.
And he said, I just figured he was a foreman, supervisor or something. And he said, I'm going to be the warden at this penitentiary. And I said, to work in a penitentiary? And he said, yeah. And I was a little bit cruder back there, and I said a couple other things to him. and he's like, just settle down, young man. He said, it's not like you think. He said, if you want to do, he gave me his card. He said, come and see me. Well, after that day happened, I didn't go see him. Actually, I just went up to the unemployment office, and they were taking applications. And I went in through there, and actually then got to do the interviews and stuff and started my career and worked 22 years in it.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. So you have two like very interesting like interests. I guess that's kind of a weird way to say that, interesting interests. But you're involved a lot in criminal justice, and you said you teach a race relations class. So how has your teaching approach changed since the subject of police brutality has taken over the news? and to get
I'm glad you said taking over the news. We might have got accused of it before they started reporting it. But anyhow, how has it changed? It hasn't. To be honest with you, no. Without us, there's chaos. You got to remember, when we go to see someone, when we go on a call, you've got to understand that we're going to see you in your worst state. I haven't got to meet you how you are right now. I haven't got anything, so I'm coming there maybe just because you and Kia are into it, and you're mad. So I'm not going to get to see the best of you right now.
Yeah.
The difference, I think, more than anything that's changed is the fact that we're allowing lawlessness, and that can't happen. I don't care which side of the fence you sit on, liberal, conservative, whatever, you can't have lawlessness. It will kill our nation. If you go and look at all the nations who have had this, Venezuela, other places, it doesn't work. People are still coming to America because we're the greatest land in the nation, not because we're the worst. And we need policemen to help keep it to be the greatest nation. So.
Okay.
Interesting. I feel like I just have to like simmer on that for a second. Okay, so throughout all of your jobs, though, looking back, I mean, you worked at the prison, the iron worker, you're a professor. What has to be your favorite one, or which one impacted you the most?
Counseling.
Okay.
I was a counselor also for 22 years.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, we owned our own business. We did a lot of counseling. So, yes, that's what impacted me the most. That's what I saw dealing with the criminal justice system, dealing with juvenile delinquency, dealing with adult sex offenders, dealing with everything. I saw a different perspective of how I had to see people.
Yeah.
My mentor, Dr. Stebbins, said you don't know a person until you get to know their story.
Yeah.
And even though the output may look bad, the input still may be good. So that's what we're looking at. So anytime that I evaluate, I tell my students, you're being evaluated every day. You guys are being evaluated every day.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you may not see Dr. Nat Cohen. Like for me, he sits on one of our main boards here, which is the police and fire board. So my students, if they're acting crazy out in public with him, and they don't know who he is, and all of a sudden they're getting ready to attempt to get a job at Danville PD, and all of a sudden he's sitting there. So you have to remember that you're, you're presenting every day. Every day you're presenting yourself. And I tell my students, you have to put your best foot forward every day, even when you don't want to.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So tell us a little bit about that business.
My counseling business.
Yeah.
We did drug and alcohol. We did family counseling. We did sex offender counseling. We did all of it. So, juvenile delinquency.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I feel like that'd be a really fulfilling job.
It was. We closed our business about 5 years ago, but yeah, it was very fulfilling. It was very interesting, as I'm sure Wade told you guys. It's very interesting and very fulfilling. It also has a lot of heartaches with it.
Yeah.
Like any other thing, though.
Yeah,
Okay. There's highs and lows.
And that was in this area, right? Was it?
Yes,
in
that's in Vermilion County. Yes.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay, so you had mentioned really, really briefly earlier that you were a part of a lot of sports growing up.
Yes.
I did hear that.
Yes.
Also, we actually got in contact with your wife.
Oh, that may be, anything might have been said. So be careful. Be careful.
So, what kind of sports did you do at Westville High School?
At Westville, I played all sports. We went from one to the other. My brother and I started that. My brother Eli and I started playing sports when we were young. When I got hurt when I was little, so when I got to play, I never stopped. It just was a continuous thing. And so I played basketball, football, baseball, ran track. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was one sport to the next, and I really enjoy it. Sports brings about, you get to know people inside and out. When you're under pressure together, when you're under pressure by yourself,
Yeah.
you get to see all those things, and you get to see how people behave in those situations. And so when you come into my field, criminal justice, hopefully you'll get an opportunity to see that before it becomes life or death.
Yeah,
So.
that's really interesting. A really different way to look at sports, especially like high school sports and stuff like that. Okay, and you also run a lot? Do you still?
Yeah, I still run, not quite as much as I used to. People who I've told that I run, especially half miles and full half marathons and full marathons, they kind of look at you and like, because when I was younger, I was a sprinter. If it was over 200, I didn't want to do it. Okay, so and when I tell them I'm running, half marathons, they say, yeah, right, and they kind of laugh, But yeah, I started running. Actually, Laura got me running and. Started running and it just got fun. And then me and my buddy still do it. We still run quite a bit, but not as much as we used to.
Yeah. Interesting. And I don't know how to pronounce it. You want to pronounce it for me?
We heard that you were, not only did you play football, but you were really good at it.
Really good at it.
And you had
I heard that you were very good at it.
Okay.
And you had won a Gridiron of the Week award in high school. Is that what we heard?
Yeah, a couple of them. Yeah.
How modest of
Trying
you.
to be humble.
Yeah.
What in playing sports, my favorite and most exciting thing was winning the tackling award. I won it my sophomore, junior, and senior year.
Wow.
So I enjoyed that, and I averaged over 20 tackles a game. So that was even.
Wow.
So yeah, some people like that.
So you had to be a linebacker.
Yes, I was.
You were? Okay.
I was, and I played linebacker and corner. Yeah.
So was linebacker or corner your favorite position in
My
all the sports?
My favorite position, yes.
Oh, okay.
Although I would move over and play fullback, and so I like scoring touchdowns too. But tackling people was my favorite.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then so aside from physical sports, do you play a good amount of Scrabble?
Yeah, I beat her all the time. So she talked to her.
You know exactly where we got that.
Yeah, I know. So I want to, since we're live, I want to make it, make it right with everybody, or at least for me. Yeah, we play Scrabble, and that's one of the games that we like to play. We play a lot of board games with family members and stuff, and I don't know if you guys ever played spoons or anything like that. Yeah, so it gets a little fun.
Yeah. So are you a competitive person?
Not at all.
No? I can really feel it.
I am very competitive. Even in a debate, I'm competitive. So,
yeah. Okay, so out of a percentage, how often do you think that you win?
I always think I win.
Oh, like 100%?
Yeah, I know win? I don't, but I mean, if you don't go into the contest thinking you're going to win, there's no need to enter in the contest.
I love that so much. I love when I hear people say that.
Yeah, I go in to win every time, and unless I'm going there just to suffice, in other words, to make things even, then I'll do that. But
so we'll give you the numbers that your wife gave us, and she says that you lose about 75% of the time. So.
That's because she has bad math.
I don't know about that one. Okay, and then
that's true.
I hope she's listening to this. I hope she'll listen to this.
Okay.
And you talked about playing a lot of games with your family, right? I heard that you were the first to graduate from your family from college. Is that true?
Yes. On my dad's side of the family, yes, that is correct. Or I should say, yes, because you got to understand, I didn't really get to know my extended family outside of my aunt, my uncle, and a couple of cousins. So what we found is on my aunt's, but on my married side, the Weathersby side, I didn't even know until I was about ready at my junior year, and then he started actually recruiting me, which is another story in itself, the reason why I didn't go down there. And he started recruiting me down there, and Mississippi Valley State. So that's where he went. He was coaching back then. And so I got to know that extended side of the family. And so, we've had not very many, but a few on that side. But for my family, I was the first to enter into college.
So was that kind of a driving force behind all your hard work? Like you were determined?
Not really. The driving work behind education for me was my mom.
Okay.
And my dad. If you weren't capable of getting straight A's, that was okay. But if you were capable and you didn't, that wasn't okay.
Yeah.
So and they evaluated that. I didn't get to evaluate that. But one of the things that was really difficult for me was I was ADHD, so I was all over the place, and then I had, like I said, I'd gotten hurt, and so I couldn't do a lot of those things. So once I got to, then I was off the chain. And so my mom would get very frustrated, and I tell mothers and fathers who are having to teach during this COVID time, the same thing, calm down, make it fun. Because what happens is they start doing the work. You got to get the ABCs, right? The 1, 2, 3s, ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, AB. Okay, but what is it why am I doing the ABCs, 1, 2, 3s?
Yeah.
And then if you make it fun, then students are willing to apply themselves. So my mother was ABC 1, 2, 3, and right now, this way, don't change, those kind of things. And so she once told me I was the stupidest child she had because she was very frustrated with me. And you have to be careful about what you say to people.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
That's not a very good one. Now, for some people, that would kill them. For me, it made me work harder.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay. So you think I'm stupid? Okay, I'm okay with that because I didn't have to, and I still don't. I may have 5 conversations at one time, and people are like, "Well, you're not hearing me," but I'm not. I don't hear. I listen. I'm listening to everything they say, and so when before she passed, she said, "You're one of the most intelligent children I have."
Wow.
And I said, "Mom, I thank you, but I already knew that." And so that's kind of how it went. My mom was a realist, and I am too. It either is or it isn't.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so with college, where did you attend?
I attend Eastern Illinois University for my DACC and Eastern Illinois University, and then my graduate degree is from Eastern Illinois University.
What was that in?
It's in counseling and human development.
Okay, interesting.
And that's what goes along with our curriculum too in policing. We want some eclectic things, social work, counseling, educators. Yeah. So we accept all of them. As long as they have the minimum requirement, we accept them in our programs and in our field.
Okay, and your son has a pretty big role to play here in the DACC communities.
Maybe
Just a little bit. Could you?
We call him RJ, but Rickey Jr. is the mayor of Danville.
Yeah.
Very proud of him and my daughter. He followed the part of the path that I don't know. In working in government, a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't like politics." Well, everything you do has a political atmosphere. I don't care, including this. Okay, everything you do has a political atmosphere, and you have to weigh that. The problem comes in is when you actually do political science or started in a political career. I know what happens. You can get ate up. People are very vindictive. People are very cynical, and I'm not saying all of them. I'm not an all or none person. Okay, I'm saying some of them. And even when you got maybe 90% cheering what you're doing, you got 10% planning your demise. So so you have to wade through that. And I didn't want him to have to do that, but this is his role. This is where he's going, and so I'm waiting on the ride. So.
Okay.
I got to say one thing. If I say something about my son, of course, I have to say something about my daughter.
And her name's Amy, right?
Amy Schweizer. So her husband is a career military man, and he's a gunny sergeant. So so it's been very interesting traveling around the world with them. So that's been kind of interesting, Japan, Hawaii, all different places, and then seeing some other stuff in between there. She's also owns her own corporation, and she just wrote a book, a children's book. So I have to give her kudos while I'm doing that with him. So
What's the most interesting place that you've traveled, would you say?
You know what, and this is just from me in the bottom of my heart. I tell my students, I tell people that I talk with, there's 3 things I've learned around this globe. Okay, people want to be accepted, respected, and loved. Okay, and maybe not in that order.
Yeah.
Okay, and as long as you're doing that, you're going to find a friend. And I found friends all around this globe. People who have same interests that I have, people who have different interests than I have. But we've been able to talk about that. Okay, and so that's what I've seen. The most interesting place I've seen is America. the most
Okay.
diversity.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have
can
the
see
most
that.
diversity of any place. If you read some of the old books, you know, we were talking about race and ethnic relations, like The Jungle by Sinclair. You know, it talks about the Irish rise here and the Germans and that, and how they were persecuted when they got here because they weren't Brit. They didn't speak the language. So you got to remember, we've forgotten about that whole history of what went through and what happened. And that's what's sad about what I see about what's happening right now. I can't forget my history of where we came from slavery through the civil rights, you know, and those movements. When you go down to Tennessee and those places and you see the Civil Rights Museum, you see our family. See, and that's what I'm proud of. But
Yeah.
they weren't very proud of that when I was growing up because of the amount of pressure and the unrealistic aspects of what they had to endure. So
Yeah, wow.
Very good. Moving on to more DAC focused talking
Okay.
points. What about this college, what about this community attracted you to DAC?
you got to remember, I kind of grew up at DACC.
Okay.
Mary Miller, who started this college, my good friend Linda Dunsing was one of her secretaries. So Todd and Joe Boyd were our best friends. So growing up, I came on this campus sometimes, and I got to meet people. Sonny Dixon, and I can go on. People that are not now gone. Vivian Schultz, and so I got to know those people, and those people always gave me an attitude of what I needed to do. And so what I found as I started going through the college growing up, what I saw from DACC was it was a beacon of hope for people. It was one way in which you could change what you were doing. We found that with my own family after I dropped out of school, all that kind of stuff, and my wife who dropped out of school also. I'm not saying high school. She dropped out of high school, but I dropped out of college. She came back to school here. And now she has her master's from the U of I.
Wow.
She has taught here and is an administrator here. I came back through here. I moved up all the way up to a warden. And having my degree saved my job back in 2003 with IDOC because they were laying off people, cutting my position. And because of what my degrees, it kept me working. And that was the only thing that kept me working.
So you've seen DAC through the times. You've seen DAC change. How
Yes.
can you describe that change or describe what you've seen since you were younger to now?
When I look at you guys doing this, honestly, the technology, my technology in criminal justice, how people see each other or not see each other.
Yeah.
Okay. Those all things are you're starting to see that expand and explode here at DACC. We have opportunity. If you don't even want to come out here to get a degree, but just to want to learn something about law or something about culinary, that's opportunity for anybody in our community to come out and do that.
Yeah.
So when you start talking about DACC, General Motors, we talked about that when I got laid off, transitioning, that's got me back into school. Okay, that's how I met Vivian Schultz because I didn't know her until then. Okay, so when you start looking at this, your life will start to mend together, and you'll start to see who helped you, who assisted you, and even those people who didn't do you the best help, including my mom who made a bad statement, who she lived to regret. Okay, so you have to understand that. So just remember, when you're dealing with people, there's opportunity. When you're talking about college is opportunity, nothing more.
Yeah.
And why people look at a college degree. Were you persistent? Did you finish what you started?
Yeah.
Most people don't finish what they start. And if you start looking at people around you and start listening to their story, you'll find out that most of them didn't even finish. A lot of them didn't even embark upon what they wanted to do in life. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you were a corrections officer. You worked with Iron. You worked at GM. You're in the counseling business. What aspect of this job that you have right now sticks out compared to those? Or would you say they're kind of similar in some way?
They're similar. Even I coach too in the community.
Okay.
So it's all about development. Human development was part of my degree. Okay. It's always about developing your community, developing the people you're around, developing your family, assisting. I tell my students, this thing is bigger than you. If you're a selfish person, you're wrong, because this life is bigger than you, and you're going to be touching a lot of people. So how do you want to touch them? How do you want to deal with them? That's what we're looking at.
Gotcha.
This is my favorite part, and this is one of the reasons why I really enjoy DACCAST, is because you get to learn about how somebody got to where they are today. And I feel like today we've learned so much about, you know, your mentality and even how you just got here through education. I did want to ask you, what is your personal, I wish I had started this earlier in life?
Oh, no, I don't like to talk about regrets. There's things I wish I'd have did. I wished I'd have made it to the NFL. See, because my first mind was NFL, and becoming an attorney after that, a lawyer, actually a judge. That was my first mindset. Okay, but when life, you hear the old adage, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade. So you have to change it somewhere. You got to make something different, and one step will lead you into the next step.
I agree.
Okay, and that's what people won't do. They won't look at it, even if it was bad. They won't look at it. They won't assess it. They won't evaluate it to see where that next step is going to be. And so that's what we're talking about. We're talking about getting to the next step of your lives, my life. People ask me, well, Rickey, what do you, like you said, what did you want to be? I still don't know what I want to be yet. I'm still working on it. Okay. So as long as I have breath, I'll continue to work on it.
So how, I like what you said right there, that you still don't know what you want to be. How do you think not being content where you are has impacted your life and your career path?
Yeah.
I think you have to be. I mean, even moving up the ladder, because people think, well, I can do that. I can do that. The problem comes in, if you could do that, you would be doing that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm not saying that you can't do that. Okay. Because you can. What I'm saying is most people are unwilling to take the necessary steps to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. When life was knocking us down a bit, I started looking at it the other way. Well, I'm not going to get anywhere. I'm not going to do anything. Education helped me see a different path. I could change that. The other thing I didn't tell you guys is my first degree I didn't complete it was in electronic technology. So, and that was here at DACC.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay, so this is another thing that I was really interested in, is what is some long and short-term goals you have for your field at DACC? I mean, do you see where do you see your field heading? And you said you've brought in more technology.
Yeah.
I'd assume, you teaching a class on criminal justice looks a little bit different than it did 15 years ago.
Well, I have to mess with Dr. Natko right now. I'm still looking for space. Okay, so if we get the space, then I would love to see us go and set up where I can keep a investigation a whole year.
Okay.
People can actually do it the way we do it on the streets and in the prison systems and stuff, and in FBI and that, where we actually have to look at something, and it isn't. You don't do it like you do it on TV in 30 minutes to an hour. Okay, that you do it the correct way. That's one of the things I would like to get more communication, writing skills, and not to degrade anyone, but our writing skills need a lot of work. Okay, and I get to see that, and I watch our rhetoric people work with people. Our English professors work with people to bring that writing level up, and I'm excited about that. I want to get something with there. I'd like to see some cybercrime. That's one of the biggest things that's going on right now with Jeff Wise. I'm hoping that maybe him and I can get together and put some curriculum together for that. So I have a lot of ways, but the problem comes in, there's only one of me that does this full time.
Yeah.
And so that becomes a problem. So the next step may be maybe they help me, may give me someone that will help me with some of the research, some of the development parts of this thing.
So what would you be looking into if you were to start something in cybercrime? That's really interesting to me.
Oh, there's so many aspects, but I mean, you're talking about we lose $1 trillion. I mean, over $1 trillion nationwide every year. So you're talking about tons and tons. What people don't understand, it's kind of like I tell my students who work at maybe a McDonald's or Burger King, they'll go, well, come in, I'm like, no, I don't get anything free. They're like, oh, yeah. No. I said, you got to remember something. If that person only makes 10 cents off of that burger, if you give it to me, how many more does he have to sell in order to make his profit back? See, we don't look at it like that. Cybercrime is the same thing. If they're stealing from you, it's just like stealing from me because it's going to cost me. And so we
Yeah.
have to look at what the aspects are of what we're dealing with in order to move to the next step of it. And that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to get to look, facial recognition happening everywhere. We want to talk about that. Iris scans. I mean, there's so many things we can go on and on with that. If I had it my way, but I'm also a realist, as I told you. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have another segment for you.
1, 2, 3, 4. Deck attack, deck attack, deck attack, deck attack, deck attack, deck attack, deck attack.
I mean, that's it?
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Mornings or evenings?
Evenings.
Danville or Westville?
Now you guys are trying to get me killed for real now. Danville or Westville? Vermilion County.
Wow. Is that allowed, Keegan? Is that allowed?
We'll
Okay, we'll allow
He
it.
did a good job today.
Sweet or savory?
Sweet.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Football or track?
Football.
Eat in or dine out?
Eat in.
All right, and our last one. Ricky Jr. or Amy?
Ricky Jr. had both of them.
Well, that's one way to answer it.
All right.
Alrighty, I think that's all we have. Did you want to say anything else?
No, thank you for coming. This has been fun, and I hope you guys continue on. And you're the beginning generation, so keep moving it.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
All right, so thank you so much, Ricky. We really appreciated having you here today with us. Thank you guys for listening. This has been the DACCAST with Kia and Keegan.
Stay classy, Jaguars.